Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Danielle Matthews. She is a brain trauma survivor, renowned public speaker, and she holds a degree in biology. And we'll be learning about spiritual principles of success for entrepreneurs from her. So first, Danielle, if the audience wants to understand why brain trauma survivor, why public speaker, how can she talk about entrepreneurship? How do we tell them about how you built an international business? And then you have also authored an ebook on mind control and all that, and then how you built your life after the difficult things that you faced in life. Help us understand with a bit of your experience, the lessons learned, and then we'll get to the point of how exactly one can bring spiritual principles of success into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I've got about 5 principles to share with everybody. So I'm excited to do that. But to give you some background, some context, I lost my health in my 20s. I was hit by a drunk driver and sustained a brain injury. And my world went completely upside down. And I think when you go through traumatic events, it causes you to question. You start to look at life differently. You start to make different choices. I was on a journey of just trying to recover. My doctors told me I would do no further healing after about a year. And thankfully, I kept looking, kept pursuing, and found a biotech discovery, something called redox signaling, that helped my body to repair itself. And when that happened, I got my health back and I started thinking, well, what do I want to do with my life? Because couple things were very clear to me. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So I thought I want to have more purpose, more impact, more joy in my everyday, because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And I couldn't unknow that, having gone through what I did. The second thing was I wanted time freedom and financial freedom. When my accident happened, I was physically unable to work. Like I had the desire to, the drive to, I wanted to, I attempted to, but I couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes at a time. I couldn't handle light. I couldn't handle noise. And so working was not an option. And therefore I had no money. And I had to move back in with my parents. Thankfully, my family was able to support me. But it was an event that made me realize, look, I don't want to, when I got my health back, I don't want to go back to exchanging my time for money. Because if I ever can't put my time in, I'm not going to earn. And it really became clear to me, I need to figure out another way to earn. And I had never, I went to University of Virginia. It's an incredible school here in the United States, one of the top public universities. And they never taught me how to be an entrepreneur, right? They taught me how to get a good job, how to get a good employer, how to interview well, like all of these things I was taught. But coming out of my brain injury, having a very different perspective on life, I thought, you know what, I got to figure out another option. And I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And he really laid out the power of becoming a business owner and what it looks like to step into entrepreneurship. And he really talked about the power of network marketing and this model that can help you without a lot of capital, can help you get started, can help you to start to learn the principles of business without having to wear all the hats, right? Because in network marketing, you partner with a company, you are your own business. But it's kind of like a franchise without all the overhead fees. And the biotech discovery that had helped me to heal was coming to market through network marketing. And so it was one of these moments in life where everything kind of converged. And I realized this is what I'm supposed to do. And I started to just study business. I found a mentor. I showed up to training every single week, and I just became a sponge. And I learned the principles of business. And at the same time, I also was having a spiritual awakening. I was realizing that, I was more than the person I had just, shown up to be in life prior to my accident. And I started to study yogic philosophy. And I started to use my business as the playground for applying these spiritual principles. And in doing that, just beautiful things started to unfold to the point where now, 8 years later, I have an international business. It's done 2.2 million in sales. And I also just launched a second business, which had a beautiful launch. I would say it was a 5-figure launch. And it was incredible to see, again, applying these spiritual principles, how I've been able to use that in business and in life to just attract things to me and move with grace and peace. So that's a little bit of insight, and that's, how we got here.
Lot of insight, lot of understanding about your life, your struggles, and your thought process. And that is why, my dear audience, Danielle is the master for today's masterclass. But I wanted you to speak about that. Through that, your story would come alive rather than me talking about it. It sounds very drab that way. So, Danielle, to understand better from you is that amidst all the difficulties that you were facing at the same time, in terms of health, your mind was working well in terms of looking towards, planning towards the future. What was it that kept you motivated? What were your, because when a trauma strikes, whenever a difficult incident happens, you start looking at only get into the survival mode and do not think about thriving. What was it that kept you, motivated enough to look at a life in the future? Because even anything else will not work if you don't have that will to live nicely for the future.
Well, interestingly, AJ, for my first year after my head injury, I wasn't doing well. I mean, I emotionally was a wreck because I was feeling like a victim. I was feeling like this shouldn't have happened to me. This isn't fair. I didn't deserve this. And my internal response was not good. And so what was happening as a result of that was that I was depressed. I was having panic attacks. I had PTSD. I had a lot of anxiety whenever I would think about the future because I didn't know when I was going to get better. I didn't know what I'd be capable of doing. And so it wasn't good. It was actually the moment that my neurologist said to me, this is your new normal. You need to adjust your life around these symptoms. That was when it was like a kick in my gut, where something inside of me said, Danielle, something's got to give. And the answer isn't out here. It's an internal shift you need to make. It's like, we all have this external world that is happening, most of it outside of our own control. And my accident clearly was outside of my control and was there, right? The brain injury was there. The accident had happened. So this resistance I was having to it, this feeling of being a victim, just wasn't serving me. And I started to realize, hang on, I have a choice here. I can actually decide to be with this in a different way. And that's internal karma. I was realizing, hang on, I do have a say here and it can make my life different. And I started to say, all right, I'm not going to think about the future. I'm not going to think about the past. I'm actually just going to be super present. I'm going to force my mind into the present moment and figure out what can I do right now to find joy? Because I had this internal drive. I wanted to be here. I mean, I questioned, do I want to stay on this planet if this is going to be my life? But something inside of me said, you're here for more. Like, keep going. And I listened to that, but I realized I had to master my inner world. That's why I called my ebook Mind Control. It's all in your head. And I kind of lay out the steps that I use to master my own thinking. Because when you're in the present moment, you become aware of patterns. You become aware of ways that you kind of habitually are that maybe are not serving you. And that awareness allowed me to shift. And when I was able to shift, I was able to bring a different vibration into my space. And I started to shift. The depression went away. The anxiety went away. I started to find inner peace. And I realized the power, of the present moment. And that was when I started also kind of exploring yogic philosophy and realizing these ancient yogic masters were teaching these same principles that I was living and realizing the power of. And it has been beautiful now to discover more of what that ancient wisdom has to say and offer for life in these modern times.
Right. And in that journey, you learned many lessons. How did you then apply those lessons? So for the audience, what were those lessons that you learned in this journey, especially that helped you apply all that for success in your business? How can others also, especially entrepreneurs, apply those principles into their business, and especially, the spiritual principles of success that you talk about?
Absolutely. So there's 5 of them. So number 1, being present. What I found, so I just shared the power of being present for my, what that did for me personally. But what I found in business is, look, people want to do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And so how do you build that bridge? How do you turn a stranger into a friend and then these friends into what feels like family? And what I found is that when I can just be present and I think of myself as like the sky, right? The sky will receive anything that moves into it. It receives a hurricane the same that it receives rain, a rainbow, snow. It's just there, accepting it all with no judgment. And what I realized was when I went out networking, when I was meeting potential prospects, potential business partners, if I acted as the sky, if I took away my mind and my thoughts and all the chatter, and I simply received people completely as they were, I listened to them, I created space for them. It is amazing, AJ. I don't know how it is in India, but over here in the US, people are not heard. They're not given space. It's like their spouse doesn't hear them, their family doesn't hear them at work. They're like, people are always constantly being told, they're being talked at. And what I found was that if you create the space to receive someone fully with no judgment, with not in your own mind, where am I going to take the conversation? How do I get them to do this? If you're just present with them, it's like all of a sudden, all of these things open up for you and you're able to build a level of trust. People, they don't know why, but they're like magnetized to you. They're attracted to you. And I don't mean physically, I mean like energetically. They're like, this person is a little different. This person is showing up differently. And so that is a spiritual principle, right? Being present, being the witness, being the sky, holding, being non-judgmental, right? That's love, is this receiving. And I don't think we do that for one another enough. And in business, that has been my secret to being able to connect with so many various people from all over the world, all different cultures, is because I just receive them fully as they are with no preference for them to be any other way. And then I ask questions and I'm curious about them. And I stay very present to what they're telling me to see, well, can I close the gap of where they are and where they want to go? Is what I offer a solution for them? And sometimes it's not. And I don't push the issue if it's not. But if I feel that it is, if I feel that I can support, then I tell them, hey, I think I can help you get where you want to go. And they're receptive because I just listen to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listening is very important, and not listening to just yourself, but first listening to others. So in terms of entrepreneurship, a lot of times entrepreneurs start with a good idea, and then they start forget about listening to their customers, and they start listening more towards the investors, and then they start listening towards the voice of so-called success to create a unicorn and whatnot. What would you like to say? You have done a lot of good business in whatever you have done, and a lot of people are struggling, will be struggling to reach that level. What would you like to tell them about success? Because sometimes you start with a great idea, good feelings, and then it gets lost somewhere in the middle. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, you need to keep your P over your E. So in any business, right, you have to have the economic driver, and your own ego is involved to some point, right? Because you need to create, and business requires a little bit of that, a lot of bit of that. But it also requires principles and purpose and people. And what I see in most businesses is they get the ratio wrong, where they started out with this great idea. They want to serve a service for people and a purpose behind their work, right? A high P. But then all of a sudden, the bottom line, money, investors, all of these stressors starts to come up. And all of a sudden, they're making decisions based on the economics and their own ego, and the principles and the purpose and the people go below. And that's when they lose their soul. That's when the spirit of the organization is cut and it's lost. And you're like, what happened to the essence of what we started? But if you can keep that essence, if you can keep principles and people and purpose above, I'm not saying don't have the economic drivers and don't have a little bit of ego involved. You need those things, right? Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. But you got to keep the ratio, right? And then you've got to continue to drive up your own capacity to deliver in the marketplace, because it's constantly changing, and when the pandemic came in, that put a whole different spin on business and connecting and social media and all of these things that now are way more front and center because the behaviors of people have changed. And, as a business owner, you need to keep up with that.
Right. And that is where we come to your inner management mastery teaching, entrepreneurs spiritual development. Tell us about this new program of yours, because obviously without spiritual growth, without purpose, without the larger, greater good, any entrepreneurship cannot have the amount of fulfillment that you actually want to have.
Yeah. What I found, so when I was building my first business in the network marketing space, I was networking all the time, and I was going to Business Networking International, BNI. I was a director consultant in my region in Central Florida. So I was teaching and educating a lot of different entrepreneurs on how to build a business, like the principles of business and networking. And I saw again and again and again so many people falling down, so many people not making it. And it was between their ears, right? It was the space internally. And I realized that their mind was getting the best of them. And having the background, the spiritual awakening that I had, realizing that I am more than my thoughts, that there is more to this life, and that there is a capacity that is huge. If you can get the mind quiet, you can tap into the divine, you can tap into source, you can tap into the infinite, and creative ideas will flow. Right? The answers are always there. But I watched so many entrepreneurs be stuck in their own mind, stuck in their own ego, not realizing that there was more, thinking that they needed the next class. They needed to just learn this, do this. Like they kept doing, and doing isn't going to get you there. You're going to burn out. You're going to get stressed out. Your health is going to collapse. And this is what I started to see. And I thought, why am I having a different experience, right? Well, how have I been able to have peace? And it's been joyful and it's been fun, through the ups and the downs. And I realized it was because I was applying these spiritual principles to my work. And I developed Inner Management Mastery for this reason, to help entrepreneurs get rid of stress, learn to have more confidence, master the inner dimension. I think so much of life is focused external, and the reality is there is so much more. There is a world within. There is an essence that you have not tapped into that will make it so much easier. And the people that have made it, all of them speak about these principles in different ways, right? And with different backgrounds, but they have a faith. There's something bigger that they lean on. And what I'm teaching people is the context to be able to look at life differently, to be able to look at their business differently, and then the tools and the modalities to be able to master their inner world. I use yoga nidra. I use yoga therapy. I use these ancient wisdom of the yogis about how they looked at life and how we understood the body-mind complex. Because if you can master your inner world, the external world then just becomes a playground. You realize that you don't take it as seriously anymore, right? And you're not at the mercy of other people's opinions or what they think or anything, because you realize how much more there is. And that you're just, this beautiful expression of the divine coming into this world and being able to create. So that's Inner Management Mastery. It's a 6-week program. We're kind of in the middle of the first round of it. I'll be launching the next program in January. So if people are interested, they can reach out. I do a consult call. It's not for everyone. So I make sure that, look, I understand where you are and what your struggles are, and if what I am offering is actually the right step for you and will bring you where it is you're needing to go. So people can reach out if they're interested in discovering that. But there's already some beautiful things happening with my first group. We've got about 26 in this first program, and I'm seeing some amazing things unfold just in the first 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So can this program be also done online? Is it, or is
it's entirely online? Yeah. So this is global. I've got people in Australia, people in the UK, people across the United States. Obviously, we pick based on who's in the program. We'll pick the time zone, but we meet together live online for 2 hours a week. And then I have privates with people where we set up and I give them, a very specific and personalized yoga nidra practice, which is a tool of enlightenment, which is a tool to help people connect in and to get rid of their thoughts. Some of these people are saying, Danielle, this is the first time ever my brain has been quiet. I didn't know I had access to this. And I'm like, yes, and there's more. So it's entirely a virtual program. Nothing is in person.
Absolutely. So what's the best way now? How people can learn more about your program, learn it on your website or wherever you have put that information. And also people who would like to know more from you and connect with you directly, for an advanced coaching or anything else.
Yeah, so I would say it would be Facebook. Facebook is a great way to get a hold of me. It's me on there. It's just Danielle Matthews. Facebook.com/discover intention is the URL, but that's my personal Facebook. My Instagram is the handle that's right here. It's again my name with an underscore on either side. And I've got a link in my bio to most things. If you just message me on there, I'd be happy to share more with you and, give you the link for a consult call. The banner on my Facebook has the link for the consult call. But you can, pop over there, reach out. I would love to speak more. And I'm constantly sharing about these principles on my social. This is something that I feel I just want to be a beacon of light for people to show a direction that maybe a lot aren't aware of. And I would love to connect with anyone that this is resonating with.
Absolutely. My last question to you, Danielle, is this. Looking back at that accident that you had, by a drunk driver, at that point in time, many people have different incidents in their life, and their life gets stops almost at that point in time. They're not able to move from there. You have traversed that distance. You have made a life of what God gave you. How do you look back, and what would you like to tell people who have got stuck for whatever difficult things that have happened or are happening in their life? How to move forward? What is the best way that they can look at such things? That some people say incidents are blessing in disguise, but whenever it happens, it is very traumatic. I would like you to tell those people about how to look at the good part or whatever it is with a lot of hope, with a lot of things for the future.
Yeah. So you've got the external world plus your internal response that makes your reality. And, whatever has happened, however traumatic it is, right? It is here. It has arrived. And so what I would say is shift your internal response to it. If this were a gift, if this was a blessing in disguise, if this was happening for you, what is the challenge making possible? What good is there? And what I have found is a lot of times the difficult things in life are teaching us to go within, to find a strength that we didn't know we had. When life is easy, we don't have to do a lot of inner work. We don't have to find our strengths. We don't need resiliency. But we all love to go to the gym, right? We like to work out. We like to make our muscles stronger. And we know that we have to lift, heavier weights. We have to do harder things. And I think we as humans forget that life, when it is difficult, the failures, the hard times, it's really teaching us. This is us going to the gym mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And it's causing you to have to search and look for something bigger, look for something beyond you, look for something within you that you didn't know was there. So what I would say is just change the perspective with which you're looking at this, and don't get stuck in PTSD. It's a normal human emotion, right? To go through trauma and to have, this internal response and the grief and the stress and the anxiety, all those things. It's normal. But I think it is not normal to stay there. And to get out of there, no one externally can do it for you. This is something that you need to go within. You need to tap within and realize that this is unfolding for you, that beauty is on the other side of this, and to have a different perspective, and it will allow you to see it. Because if you just keep, like I was my first year after my accident, just this isn't fair, I didn't deserve this, all of these things, you're going to beat yourself up and stress yourself out emotionally. But if you start to say, okay, this has arrived, I don't condone it, I don't agree with it, I didn't want it, but it's here. Once you accept that, then you can find stable ground to stand on and go, all right, well, what could be beneficial from this? Or how can I find joy within these new rules that have been put on life? And I would offer that if you start to ask different questions, right, your life will shift and change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.